Hi, olá, welcome, bem-vindo to Yarn Stories with Olivia, ou Contos com Olivia, my little channel here on YouTube where I will talk to you about all the items that I crochet or knit or anything yarn related that I find myself having worked on throughout the weeks or months. This is my little podcast where I seek to record what my makes are. For those of you who are new to my channel, thank you for finding me. So if this is the kind of thing that you are interested in watching and listening to, thank you for sticking along with me. So a little bit about me, for those of you who are new, I live in the south coast of Massachusetts with my husband, my two sons, and our rescue cat, Gary. I am a librarian by day and very much a yarn aficionado throughout every spare moment of my days and nights and weekends. So we'll start talking about what my recent makes are. And if you haven't figured it out yet from the title, from the video, and from what you're seeing right now, we're going to be talking about the granny stitch garment, plus a few other granny stitch items that I'm going to share with you. So this is my most recent finish. It is my new to the collection item for this episode, which for those of you who have been joining me throughout my last episodes, you will already know that as a librarian, I do tend to sprinkle in quite a bit of librarianese along the way, just because I just want to use every opportunity that I can to promote libraries, public libraries in particular, since they are very dear to me. Besides my family, my two biggest loves are books, being surrounded by books, and of course, being surrounded by yarn, which I have a substantial amount of. So what am I wearing? I'm wearing the Granny Pop pullover, which is a design by MJ's Off the Hook here on YouTube and on Instagram. I'm sure you'll be able to find her. So the yarn I used for this top was Sandra Jewel Spun in the colorway Crystal Quartz. It is an Aran weight yarn, and I had picked up 2 balls of this yarn at a little yarn shop that I'll talk about at the end as well, for an early local yarn shop day visit. And this garment took exactly the 2 balls of this, and what I've got left over from the 2 balls that I purchased is 3 grams of yarn, making this a very successful make, as my goal is to use up as much of the yarn for the project as possible, so I don't have too much to add to the leftover pile. That's this yarn. And what I used for the neckband, the cuffs, and for the hem was the Hobie Amigo XL in this beige color. It just says color 3, it doesn't give a color, but I just thought that these 2 colors went really well together. I mean, in this little itty bitty, you just see the grays and the darker charcoal gray. But as you can see from the top, there's a variation of colors, and this is the color that I picked up would match really well with this. So I was very happy with how the colors worked together, and how it crocheted up really well. The definition of the crochet stitch is really works out well with that yarn. So for this project, I used 3 crochet hooks, 3 sizes, per pattern instructions, but for what worked for my gauge, which is I used the F hook, and my collection of hooks are varied. So these happen to all be, these all happen to be Boyle hooks, which is something that I've crocheted with for years. In fact, some of the color is rubbed off as when I crochet as if I'm holding a pencil. So I used a size F, which is a 3.75 millimeter. I used a size G, which is the G, I believe, let's see, is a 4.25 millimeter, and then the H, which is the 5 millimeter. These 3 were involved in the project. I used the H hook to cast on, or I should say, I used the H hook to do the chain so that it would be loose. And then I used the F hook to do the rib for the collar, because I didn't want it to get too loose. I wanted it to be just the right width for my neck. And I used the G hook for the cuffs, as that I found that it would give me just the right amount of ease so that it wasn't too tight and it wasn't too loose, and it gave it that little design element. And for the hem, I use the H hook, because for the hem I need, I prefer very loose on the hem, as I like to push it down to around my waist. I should say my waist, so as I like to push it down over my hips. And what's so great about crochet is that this garment took me 3 days to make, and that's with taking it apart several times to make it fit to my desired fit, which was, there's various sizes, and there's positive ease involved. But I decided to go with a size large, even though probably a size extra large would have given me a little bit more ease than what I got. One thing that I do know, especially with acrylic based yarn, is that it does tend to grow quite a bit with wear, as I've seen that in other projects I've made. And because I want it to fit comfortably but not too tight or too loose, I decided to go with a large amount, for the size large amount of stitches, which then brought the width of the arm to exactly how I like it under my arm. I know we've talked about this before, where I find that sometimes I put too much bulk under my arms, because I do have shoulders that's somewhat narrow, and then if I go with a size that I need for the bust, then I end up with too much yarn, too many stitches up here, and the garment just doesn't fit me as comfortably as I would like it to. So to do that, I ended up going with a large, and then I decided to, instead of doing the balloon sleeve, I went with a fitted sleeve. I've got the decreases here. The pattern does have is instructions for balloon sleeves, but again, I knew it would put too much bulk here. So I've got, I decreased here and then just straight crochet down. And because I had just 2 balls of this yarn, and I was determined that I was just going to use these 2 balls, because it was, let's see, the amount of yardage on them. It is, it was 200 grams, so it was 546 yards times 2, whatever that amount is. So I didn't want to go and pick up another ball, because I was determined that I was going to make it work with what I had. I ended up, so what I ended up doing was I crocheted it, saw that, first I started out by crocheting the balloon sleeve, found that it was going to be too bulky, so then I did the other sleeve with the decreases, and I was liking how that was coming out. So after I took apart the balloon sleeve, because again, crochet is so easy to just take out and restart. Once I did that, I had enough yarn to do the 2 sleeves, and I had the length that I was comfortable with for the body. And again, even with pulling it back and crocheting it again, the project was less than 3 days, or I should say 3 long evenings after work to work on it. Very happy with how I came out. My colors of love, and as we talked about, I love browns, blacks, grays, and it is, and I wear it with just a black tank top underneath, or if I wear it with my dresses, it gives me just enough airflow so I don't feel very warm with it, but yeah, it keeps me warm enough, and I am absolutely in love with this top, and I already see a few more coming, and possibly the next one I will do will probably be the V-neck version that she also has on the site, because I'll be showing you some yarn that I've already set aside to try another one. Let's go to the next finished item, which will stay in the theme of granny stitch. So I have a friend who loves to be on TikTok and looking through for reels, and I do have quite a few friends that will send me suggestions of things that they think I should make. In this case, my friend Christy sent me a reel from Crafts by Fatima, which is a TikToker that shows these quick little videos of projects that she's made, and one of them was a crocheted a granny stitch pillow. For hers, I used Comfy Cotton Blend, Lion Brand Coffee Cotton Blend. I had one cake of it, and I used just about the whole cake to make her pillow, which was the exact same size of this one as I'm showing you. And you'll see it. I've got it on my shorts here on YouTube if you want to take a look at it. And it was exactly what she was looking for, but because it came out so pretty, I decided to make some more. And so I made this one, which is in a yarn that I had been, it wasn't gifted. It was a yarn that I was inherited, or a yarn that I was given to be its caretaker. So let me take you back to 2012 when I was working at in a library where we had a knitting and crochet group, and family members of a lady that had recently passed away came in with 3 full bags of yarn and said, we know you have this crochet and knitting group, and we would like to donate this yarn. There are unfinished projects in here if somebody would like to finish them. My mom used to love to make these squares and then set them together, sew them together to gift them or donate them to the hospital. So if somebody here would be willing to take on the project, we'd be very grateful. Because they brought several trash bags with yarn, I think they cleared out the craft room. They just put everything into the bags without any rhyme or reason or organization. And I decided to bring all of the yarn home, spread it out, see how I could match up the squares that were there, and to see what I could finish. Because I have done that over several years where I do finish projects in memory or in honor of the person who's passed away. I complete those projects and give them back to the family. And in this case, I did. And I, again, because all the yarn was in these trash bags and it was difficult to, and to honor her memory, I didn't want to just bring the trash bags to the knitting group and say, here, you guys pick what you want and what can you finish. I decided to take the project on myself, and I brought all of the bags home, organized them, sorted it out, and ended up making a decision that I was going to be the one that was going to complete projects with all of the squares that she had. So I did, and what I did was in 2012, I did 11 granny square type Afghans with all of the squares that she had started. She had multiple little squares already on the go, but not assembled in any form. As the son had said, she just liked to make these squares and then she would sew them up later on. So I did the blankets, and the family, when I let the family know, they said that they were fine with it being used as fundraiser for the library. So we held a little fundraiser to support the library with a collection of the crocheted Afghans that Mrs. Coe had started and that I had finished, and that was the lady's name. So I did 11 projects that you will have seen here, including one where the color scheme was based on, I ended up just using the rest of the yarn and I came up with my own version of what I thought she would like. So that was a centerpiece for the exhibit at the library, was that one Afghan, and the husband fell in love with it, and that one he wanted, and that one he gave us $75 for. So we did raise a little bit of money from other people who, I had set a price of $50, and it did raise a little bit of money for the library for children's programs. So anyway, yeah, in 2012, there was 11 blankets made. And then from 2012 to 2016, there was another 6 made. So in total, I made 18 blankets with granny squares from Mrs. Coe's collection of yarn that had been brought to the library. In 2018, I decided to take a pause and said, I'll figure out the rest. So I'm just going to show you what I still have left from the pile of thing. So this is the type of thing I would have gotten from that bag. I did organize this a little bit into this bag. So this is what I would have, most of the projects would have been. So they came in these little granny squares. So here's some that are left from the color scheme that I hadn't tackled yet. As I said, it's organized I placed the yarn. I placed the yarn in the bag that would have matched her squares. So she would have had these little squares, and she would have had these larger squares already made. And so in this particular color scheme, I still have the whole kit here. Someday I'll get to. But just to show you an example of, so it's you know, it's old acrylic yarn, but it is what she was using. And I am going to finish this project. I just didn't realize that it's been over 6 years since I tackled this. But anyway, but in terms of this square, I knew that I also had off-white square downstairs in another bin from her squares that she had made. So I had the little squares that I hadn't assembled into anything yet. And I think this is like a Karen Simply Soft yarn. And here's another. So that's what gave me the idea when I got the request to make a pillow. I knew I had these squares already done. And instead of taking it apart to make something else, I figured they're going to end up being pillows. So here it is. So that's how this pillow came to be. This was that one big square. It wasn't enough to go all around the pillows. I did take apart a couple of the little ones to finish it. And that is going to be the plan for the rest of this. Is going to be, I'll be making a couple more pillows. And then this little portion of her cream colored granny squares will be used up. And I'll be gifting this as, it's, you know, for its original intention was for it to be gifted or donated. That's what this is going to be. So that's my story of my granny stitch pillows. You'll find all of this on my Ravelry page. I did log everything there, all of the different blankets that I made with all of her squares. And I was very happy to do that, and I feel like I've honored her memory and having used up all of the yarn instead of it ended up left with someone that wasn't going to know what to do with it or taking all of her squares apart. This way the integrity of her project was intact when I assembled them into these blankets. So I have a little bit more about Granny Stitch, but I will save that for the archives portion because I want to continue talking about new to the collection. I am going to show you something that's not Granny Stitch based. It is my April socks for my year of socks 2024 plan that I have. And the socks that I have finished for this month of April are, they are the, let me see if I can see this. These are the, and for those of you who follow me on Instagram, and on Ravelry, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, I'm Olivia30M on Instagram, and these are the Skype socks. I say Skype, but SKYP socks. It's simple. The pattern is the Simple Skip Socks by Adrienne. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it is a beautiful textured pattern. I love this pattern, and I'll be doing more socks like this. The yarn, I should say that the yarn I used is, it was this Lion Brand Many Petty yarn that I had. It's a color that, with the purples and blues and greens that my son admired. And this was a yarn that I had bought on clearance a very long time ago. And I just thought that it would be, as I said, I like to make him socks that he can throw in the wash and dryer and not have to worry that they're going to shrink on him. And yeah, the colorway, what's the colorway on it? The colorway is boot. It's boot. Okay. And so the pattern is really, really pretty. It's a full row repeat, and it's got this little stitch where you skip and you slip over the stitch, and it comes out so pretty on the self-striping yarn is what gonna have to try it with a solid yarn to see how it works up, but how nicely it worked up with a striped yarn. And I chose just a plain navy blue mini that I had in stash to do the heel lap and the toe. And I'm just very, very happy with how these came out. So yeah, April socks. What else can I say to you? Well, I think I've already said that I do all of my socks with a on magic loop, and I used it's a 2.75 millimeter, which is size 2 needle for 64 stitches. So the 64 stitches with a knit 1, purl 1 cuff. I did 20 rows, and then I went right into the pattern. And yeah, they're ready to be worn. I've been asked when they're ready to be worn, and my typical answer has been you have to wait until after podcast, and then you can have these. So yeah, this Skype socks, skip socks. Yeah, they came out really, really nice. So that's the only item that I'm going to show you that's not granny stitch related for this one. So that's my last finished object for this month. Let me do the little bit of archive piece first, because it still ties into the discussion of the granny square. So from the archives, I just wanted to show you how I've been crocheting. Well, I think I did mention that in the first podcast. I've been crocheting since I was 10. And after my mom passed away, I acquired her sewing machine and her little organizer where she kept all of her threads, and tucked in the back in one of the drawers, I found this. And what a treasure to find this. This is my first granny stitch project that I made. I believe I made this in 1976. As you can see, I was already a lover of brown back in 76. And tell me that this doesn't say the 1970s to you. It's like, but it's just one long piece that I made for my father to place in the back of his car, because back then I had seen cars, the rear window of the car had blankets, and obviously I didn't have the fortitude to make one whole blanket, but I thought if I just made this, and I remember so clearly making it and giving it to my father to put in the car. What I didn't realize was my mother had kept it. And it is, you know, none of the ends got woven in. I figured like this, it looked good enough. So there's my archive piece, a little gem that my mother saved for me, knowing that since I was the crafty one, the one that took after her in terms of craft making, because my sister does not do any of this. She left it so that I would find it when I got her sewing machine and her sewing bins. She knew that I would appreciate this. So I'm very grateful that she had this there for me to find. So yeah, there's my archive piece, 1976. So now let's talk about whips and why I needed to crochet this. Because, oh, how do I even start? So I was focusing on working on my Fletching. My Fletching by Jessica McDonald, which you've heard me talk about before. And I thought I was doing really, really well. And I was feeling a little smug with myself that I was doing such great work, such great color work technique I was having. And I did. And I realized that I did what I've always been told I shouldn't do, and I do every time. And you would think that I would learn, and I hadn't, but I've learned now. When I blocked out the color work, it looked great. When I tried it on, it felt a little loosey-goosey around the shoulders, but I still thought I had it. I had gone up a needle size because everybody had told me, go up a needle size from the pattern if you're doing color work. So I did. Anyway, when I started to put the garment together for the sleeves, and I ended up putting on the barber cord to try it on, and I tried it, and it was way too loose. up here and in the back. And as I said already, I do tend to be a little smaller up here. So if I start to construct something, thinking that I need to construct it based on what the ease I want for my front is, it's going to be too big up here. I think I figured it out that I have to look at that every time when I start doing a garment. And when I tried it on, I said, this is going to end up being a tent again when I wear it. So I took it back. I took the whole thing back. I tinked it. I tinked it. I tinked it all the way back. So this is what I'm talking about. So I am talking about the fletching. So I tinked it back to the collar and said, okay, you're going to do what you never do, and which will make your friend Robin very proud of you. You're going to do a gauge swatch. So I did. So here's my proof. Robin, if you're watching, I told you I had it. You may not believe me, but I have it. See? Here's my little gauge swatch. My very first official blocked, measured gauge swatch. This one's gonna go in the scrapbook because in all these years of knitting, I've never done one to the end. I've done one maybe 5 or 6 rows. And I'm like, oh, I got this. It's good. It measures it. It's fine. But this is the one that I actually did in the 4x4 square. So yeah, so here it is. So then I had gauge with the size needle that the designer calls for, which is a size 6 needle. And I had been doing the piece with a size 7 needle. So proud of this little gauge swatch. So I went back and I started again and I did it, and it started to work up nicely. And it is a little poofy because, you know, the yarn had already been worked. So but I already know that it'll block out once I wet it and block it. So then I was so proud. I had it. It's going well. There I go. You know, there I'm working. So I've got the body all done, and you would have seen a picture of this. So here's where I am with the body. And when I posted the picture of how I plan to work on this on the weekend of our knitting retreat, which I'll talk about at the end, right there, I looked at the picture and I went, oh, no, not again. And I realized what I did. And what I did was make the mistake on the last repeat. So my feathers on here are correct, but up here, they are wrong. They should have been also going in the same direction. Let me see if I can show you a little bit better. And I know I shouldn't care, but I do, because I want my piece to be perfect. So there it is, I don't know if you can see it. So it's very noticeable when I saw it on the picture. But since I already had the body, I had the body done down to here. Do I do it? Do I take it apart again, get back over here to do it? Or do I just make myself happy and crochet? So yeah, so I decided to just go on with it. I said, I can't take it. I just have to do it. So after I finished this one, I said, all right, let me get back to the fletching and go with it. So I have finished one whole sleeve. And as my friend Kevin says, and asked recently if you use the same color stitch markers when you do your decreases. Yes, I do. I'm one of those. I like my stitch markers to all be the same color as I do my decreases. And so the left sleeve is all done. The body's, you know, at the same place it was before. And I've just started to work on the right sleeve. And on the side, it's going to be my pink markers. So I'm hoping this is going to be finished. I should go this way. I'm hoping this is going to be finished for the next episode. And full disclaimer in advance so that you all know I am very aware that this little design element is completely Olivia's design element, not a designer flaw. It's this one over here, who sometimes decides that she wants to do this kind of work at 10 o'clock at night after a long day at work. Which, by the way, that's another lesson learned. The last episode I did, when I watched it back, first I watched, all right, it worked out all right. I managed to align myself back up to where I was at the end of the workday, since I filmed that episode in 2 segments. But after I watched it back, I'm like, never ever record again at the end of a very long work day because your energy was just low. That's not what this is supposed to be about. This is supposed to be upbeat, fun, knitting projects. Even when you have to think it back 3 times, you still have to have the right attitude that you're gonna do it. Because I am like that. I know some people would have just given up, but I'm not going to, because I do want to make sure that I get this project done, and I will get it done.
So Olivia from the future here. There's a Portuguese word for someone who is insisting on knitting something for the 3rd and 4th time when they keep making mistakes. The word is teimosa. I am very teimosa, which means stubborn. Not going to give up. I'm going to get it right. But I'm not going to tink it again. This is it.
We haven't seen this one yet. So the other whip I have going on right now is per request of someone who works with me. She had bought a new winter coat jacket and had asked me if I would ever consider making her a warm garment, a cowl for her to wear with a jacket. And not necessarily a hat or a scarf, but something like a balaclava. And she sent me a pattern that she really liked and said, can you make me this? I said, well, possibly. I don't know when I'll have it done, though. If you can wait until I have it, I'll do it. I didn't find a pattern that I was very keen to use. I went on YouTube and I found a tutorial for one. And it is Knit Hooded Cowl by Crazy Hands Knitting and Crochet. And this is what it's looking like to date. So I've got the neck piece done, and I've started to work on the decreases in the front for this is where the face will go. And in the back, there's a little bit of shaping. So you've got your decreases and your increases again for when it's going to be over your head. And I am using deep stash yarn for this project, which was in way on the bottom of my basket down here. And it is the Click Chunky Wool. I think I bought this back in 2010 to make a sweater. And of course it just has gotten further down in the basket. And her jacket matches this colorway perfectly. And since I'm never gonna use this yarn for the sweater I thought I was going to make, it ended up becoming a balaclava. So I've used 1.5 ball so far, and this will be enough to finish the rest I've got. Here's what I've got. And I am using a size 10 needles, knit picks, and what else can I say about it? I think that's about it. So yeah, but her birthday's in June, and I thought I would give this to her as a birthday present for her to use in the fall and the winter of next year. So I should have this done pretty shortly. In fact, I'll probably work on it this afternoon. I'm off to a birthday party, and since it's just now some knit and decreases, I'm gonna get this finished. Or I might take my fletching with me and work on that sleeve, because it would be nice to get that done. But we'll see. We'll see how the day pans out. Let's talk about what I'm putting into my radar for what I'm gonna work on next, because as I said, I really enjoyed doing this, and I wanna make more, and I wanna make the V-neck version of it. So I went through what I had in yarn, and no surprise, right? I had plenty of yarn in stash that I could use for this, and I will show you what I've got here. And I have this yarn that was brought to me from Portugal, a friend of mine. I think some of you have already heard how I just love to acquire some yarn from Portugal, since that is my country of birth. My friend Chrissy was vacationing, and there was a very small yarn shop in the village or town where her mother-in-law lives. It is Gafanha de Nazaré, and the shop owner, and the shop is no village de Alma, and she had gone to visit the shop and let the shop owner know that her friend has an obsession with yarn. At the time, I was looking for some more of the Rosarios Quatro Terra tweed to finish my caramello, and she didn't have the Terra tweed, but suggested this yarn because she had quite a few balls of it. So of course I told Chrissy, yeah, bring me the yarn. I would love to have that yarn. It looked so pretty. So she did. She brought me 3 of each colorway. This is the Rosarias 4 Invicta, and this is the other colorway, which has got greens, golds, grays, of course. And the colors were just so pretty. And the shop owner was making a shawl with it, and Chrissy knew that these were my colors. Anything in browns and grays she knows are my colors. So she let me know she had a room in her suitcase if I would like her to bring some, and of course I said yes. And it was packaged in these bags. I took it out so I wouldn't rustle. So I've got another bag like this where this yarn lives. And so here it is. So I'm thinking these are gonna make a beautiful lighter weight granny stitch v-neck cardigan, and v-neck cardigan, a new a v-neck crochet top. And it turns out that I have more of the Hobie yarn. Pardon me as I grab it from the bottom here. I have more of this Hobie yarn, Amigo. So I've got the this colorway here, this green, and so I thought it would look pretty with that. What do you think? You guys think that that will work? So that's the green. And for this one, I have this colorway of the same Amigo Hobie yarn. There is also this other darker color, but I think this will look really nice. Very fallish. So what do you all think? Let me see, how can I do this? So these colors for my next crochet project. There's going to be a little talk here now about my visits to local yarn shops and some of the recent acquisitions that I brought besides what I've already shown you. So if it's not your kind of thing, thank you for being here with me. And remember to click like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you have questions for me. I would love to see your comments. I love reading them, and I will respond to them. It's always fascinating to me when I get comments from people from outside where I live here in Massachusetts, and also having found through the comments a couple of people that were local, which is a perfect segue for what I want to talk about next. So I'm going to talk about local yarn shop day, and I'm going to talk about a knitting retreat that I just went on with my friends. Local yarn shop day. I did go to a couple of local shops on the 27th, but our local yarn shop day started the week before. I have been going to a knitting retreat with several ladies from my first initial knitting circle at the library. We've been meeting for over 20 years. The group has grown, downsized a little bit, grown again, and yeah, this was our 21st year of getting together for a weekend of relaxation and knitting, crocheting in Hingham, Mass. It is something that we've been doing for several years now. Robin and I have been doing it together for many years, and Sue has joined us over the last few years. And we stopped at Wicked Good Yarns, which is a wonderful little shop owned by Joanne. The shop is in Braintree, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. I always like to pick up stuff that's from local dyers, and I have a few of her skeins already, but this one is, so this is McKnits yarns. It's hand dyed in Plymouth, Massachusetts, which is about a 40-minute ride from me. And it is, the colorway is silver gray, and you can see it's hand dyed in Plymouth. And I saw a shawl made up with this yarn in aqua blue, but of course me and my grays, I had to pick up a skein to make the shawl. And the shawl that it was knit with is pardon the rustling here, is Equinox by Yarn Twisters. So I'm going to be casting this on soon. I'll be knitting this one soon. But this is just a beautiful soft yarn. And when I went back to the yarn shop on the 27th, the dyer was there and we got to chatting for a little bit. And this is what's so fascinating for me about this yarn community. So when I was there, she said, "Oh, you're Olivia. My friend told me about you from your podcast." I said, "Your friend has seen my podcast?" She said that a friend had sent her a link to my video of the yarn shop where I paused a little bit on this yarn. She said that her friend, yes, lives on Cape Cod now, had originally been from the South Coast area. And I know exactly what she was talking about because we had been talking via a comment on YouTube. And so now I know a little bit more about the friend, where exactly in the South Coast she lives, which is literally right down the road from me. So it was that was my first feeling of like, oh my God, somebody has seen me and recognizes me. And it's not one of my local friends or, it was kind of awesome to get that. And she has beautiful yarns. I'm hoping to bring someone. She's going to be having a trunk show there at Wicked Good Yarns soon. And I hope to go and pick up a few more of her skeins. And so after, there were other things bought. I'm not going to show you everything. I'm only going to show you the yarn that I bought that has a story behind it, because after all, this is yarn stories. Mas conto fim para nós todas ouvir, né? So my other purchase was, we got to talking about socks and how my husband is now wanting to get more socks and how I needed to choose some yarn to make them socks. And my friend Robin said, "Oh, did you see this yarn? It's the Patriots colorway, Patriots football team." And I looked at it and I said, "Oh yeah, I know that my son and my husband both love red and blues." And when I saw this Biscot yarn, Bis sock, I said, yeah, that'll make a nice pair of socks for them. And then I saw that it was New England, it's colorway New England, so it's not. I said, yeah, this will make a nice pair of socks for them. So I was going to bring just one skein. See, there I go. I just love the feel of yarn. So this is a 75, no, this is an 80-20 blend. 80% merino, 15% nylon. And I said, yeah, this will make a beautiful pair of socks for either of them. So I picked up a skein. And then Joanne, the shop owner, said to me, she goes, "You know, it would look really nice as a muscle burrow. Have you made one?" I said, no, haven't made one. Haven't gone down that need to make one of those, because it's just stocking that. So she said, it makes a beautiful muscle burrow. So if you want to, you can get the blue. Look at the blue that's next to it. It would make a beautiful hat where you could do the inside in the blue and, do one part blue, one part in the color, and then the hat could be reversible. So of course, I'm an easy target. So of course I brought the blue. So the blue is also an 85-15, a navy colorway. So of course I did. But then I still had the idea that I needed to make them a pair of socks. So guess what I did? So I'll be able to make 2 pairs of socks and a muscle burrow for my guys with this. So on April 27th for Local Yarn Shop Day, we went to a local shop here. And when I say we, again, it's my knitting buddies, Sue and Robin. We do tend to do these yarn trips together, these road trips, last minute road trips, because we weren't going to do anything on the 27th. We were not going to go to Connecticut Sheep and Wool because it was a little bit of a drive, and we were still recuperating from our retreat, and we had plenty of a yarn fix from being at Joanne's shop, and we thought we're not going to do it. But Saturday morning I get a 9 a.m. phone call saying, "Hey, put on your jeans, let's go. We're going to go to the local yarn shop." It is a local yarn shop after all, so let's go. It doesn't take much to convince me. So yeah, jeans went on, and off we went. So our local yarn shop, Naughty Knits, we did pick up a few items, which I will show you here in this basket. But so that I don't do too much rustling, I just wanted to show you the kit that I picked up from the shop, and it is to make, so let me see if I can do this without rustling. So this is the kit. I picked up the kit for this cowl. All three of us picked up this kit, all in different colors. So she had these kitted up for us already, and she had these at 40% off, so it was a good purchase. So this is my kit. I'm keeping it in the bag because well, there's a shine. I don't want to, I still have to find a place to put it. And this is for the Peaks and Pinnacles cowl, which is designed by, well, it's Abby Fabby Designs, which turns out that it's somebody that we know, but we didn't make the connection that this was her design until we ran into her at the other yarn shop we went to that day. Her name is Terry, and we saw her and she says, you know, that when we told her that we had bought this, she goes, you know, that's my design, right? Well, we were very happy to tell her that all three of us had picked up one, and we were going to be making this and sporting it. So yeah, this is my colorway. So it's got Primrose yarn, Murky Waters yarn, and Harriet yarn. So I'm not sure when I'll get to it. So that's why I'm going to keep it in the bag for now. So that was the first shop. And at this first shop, she was also having a buy one, get one free yarn bin. And I picked up some Regia DK for a pair of socks. And so these two I got these two together. They're all Regia for socks. DK and then sock weight. And for this one, I picked up, to go with it, I got this brown, the Merino Yak, which I'll do for the toes and cuff and heel, possibly, because I thought they matched well together. So those were from the yarn shop nearby, that kit, plus these. Last episode, I talked about this yarn, Ken yarn, that I had picked up from Skein yarn shop, which is another one of my favorite local yarn shops, even though it's a 50-minute ride from my house. So I had this yarn, and it has a little bit of color pooling in it. So I want to see how it's going to work up. I'm going to kick it up, but I'm going to work on, because again, enabled by Tracy of Wool and Wishes. Seeing Tracy's version of it inspired me to just push it up the work queue, to make it work, to make it go up in the queue, which is the Moonlit Shawl by Sandra Paul. So the Moonlit Shawl is crocheted, and I always tend to want to knit with fingering weight yarn. I don't know why. For me, crochet has always been with worsted weight or DK weight. So this is going to be the first time that I will crochet something that is fingering weight. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out. But I thought that this yarn might work well with this, to see how it comes out with some color pooling. Because what Tracy just did with hers is brilliant. The way her color pooling worked. So this will be interesting. So this is on the radar to be hooked on. It's going to be hooked on, not cast on. It's going to be hooked on shortly. So let's see how this works out for my next episode. So there's that one that I've got. And oh yeah, well, there's a whole bunch of other projects that I've got as WIP. So those aren't even going to be mentioned. So anyway, last thing I wanted to talk to you about is, because I did say that I would do this. I am a librarian. I did say I wasn't going to do book reviews, and that's still true, but I will do book reviews of craft books. So this is the one that I wanted to showcase for this episode, since it's all about the granny square, plus one or two other items in here. I wanted to show you this book that is a new recent addition to our collection at our library. So 100 crochet tiles, because if you want to be more adventuresome than the granny stitch square, this one is a fantastic assembly of different crochet squares to try. And when I look through it, as you can see, I've already marked some of the ones that I want to try. So I saw this one, and of course I want to try this one. It's called keeping the pillow thing in mind. the hand-painted tiles cushion. Look at this. Look at how pretty that is. And this is, so that's what, let me see if I can hold it up like this. So that's what it looks like. And it is by the designer Ana Moraes Soares, which is a Portuguese name, so that caught my eye. So, and it is made with Rosarios Meia yarn, which is the Portuguese yarn. So, of course, my eye went right to that. And I do, oh, you're not going to be surprised, right? I do have Rosarios Meia yarn in my stash from my trip to the Azores 2 years ago. I brought some of it, and just because it was pretty, I don't know what I'm gonna make with it. But now seeing this, I just want to give this a try. And it is with a D hook, which I've never, well, I shouldn't say never, because I did attempt to do doilies with my mother when I was younger. I don't think I've used anything smaller than a Neff hook in a long time. So it'll be interesting to see if I can manage with a D hook, which is a 3mm hook. But I do want to try this. So that's that one. And then the other one that caught my eye is this one. It's called Porto train station. So pardon me as I try to hold this up closer to you. So Porto train station. So for those of you who are new, may not have heard, but those who have heard, I am going to be going to Porto in June. And I am planning to go to the train station. And yeah, I look forward to maybe possibly making something when I get back to remind me of my trip there. And if you hung out with me this long and you've stayed, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. As always, I know that we all are limited on time to devote to us, our hobby. And if you took the time to be with me, I really appreciate it. Thank you. If you enjoy what I'm saying, if you like what I'm talking about or what I'm showing, please leave me a comment. Let me know. And remember to click and subscribe, which is something that I tend to forget to say oftentimes. I'd like to see the channel grow a little bit further. I would love to hear from you, from where you're watching me from, what you're working on, what it is that I'm working on that's bringing you interest, what I'm working on that might have motivated you to try. Anything that you would like to share with me about you, I would love, love, love to hear it. My viewers who are Portuguese, a mesma coisa, se tiver alguma coisa que tenho que dizer, eu adorava ler o seu comentário. Yeah, and I did have someone say that they appreciate that I throw in some Portuguese words, so thank you for saying that. I try to just do it at the beginning, at the end, and maybe at some point I might do a few words here and there, and so you could see how they're written if I say them. But I think that on this episode I didn't stumble too much, and I didn't find myself having to bring in the Portuguese word from the back database to come to the front. For those of you who might not know, so Portuguese is my first language. Although I've been in the US for 40 years, it's still very easy for me to move from one language to another, since most of my family and life is still very much involved with Portuguese on a day-to-day basis. So if you stayed this long, thank you so much for being here with me. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your time and listening to my ramblings here of my yarn ventures and my makes. If I've inspired you to pick up something, to try something, or to motivate you to just go on with something that is just giving you a hard time, I would love to hear it. So thank you. Obrigada. Until next time, até a próxima.